into it, can you just tell us your first name?
Sarah.
Awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about your childhood?
Oh, childhood. Like, what ages does that include?
However you would summarize your childhood.
Also, do you want me to talk at the camera or just? Okay, cool.
You want to look directly at somebody you're thinking about, you can look straight.
Oh, I just want to make sure. I mean, born in Baltimore, raised outside of Baltimore till I was 8, and then moved to Pittsburgh. So yeah, active, athletic. Yeah. Good.
How was that growing up?
I I I really would need like age preferences or
Age preferences?
yeah.
Let's do 5 to 16 summer.
Oh, so I have like two older siblings, my brother Matt, my sister Megan, my parents great till I was 13. Like just great like family, uh everybody going to everybody's like activities and sports and whatnot. Um, just like really supportive parents. Um, I mean, I believe I can't fully recall, but I believe that was like just a really happy childhood. I did like a ton of sports, so that was fun. And like I have like random snapshots of um, like stupid stuff I did like as a kid of like, digging up T-Rex bones and the backyard and like, getting in bike accidents just like with a mailbox, like stuff like that. So yeah, I had a fun, good childhood. A lot of love.
What were your dreams as a child?
I wanted to be a professional athlete. I wanted to be a professional athlete, then I wanted to uh, be a businesswoman. That was like the plan. So I didn't necessarily get to like the professional level, but I played D1 volleyball, um, and I own my own business now. So it's definitely obviously not what I imagined. I imagined like superstar and then like high powered, businesswoman that like wore like pencil skirts and heels all the time, and now it's like definitely if little Sarah would see me, she'd be like, I mean, this took a turn, like, but technically I still accomplished, I guess, what I wanted, which, is nice to reflect on. So,
Would you mind just talking about your relationship with your dad and just how that felt with your general relationship with him
oh, that's
growing up?
a perfect, just getting into it question. Um, so before my dad moved out, we had a really close relationship. I was definitely like a daddy's girl, proud of it. Um, and he like, yeah, he was just like so invested in all my sports. Um, like always like, he would get home, I'd like go run, sit on his lap, like hang out with him. We always had this tradition of we would watch the Steelers on Sunday, and my dad is lactose intolerant. I am now as well. But at the time, I was, a wee little pint. And he would get these one chocolate chip cookies and dunk them in milk and watch them or eat that during the first half of the football game. And then during the halftime, he would just disappear. And like at the time, I didn't like understand, And then when I became lactose intolerant, but yeah, we had cool things like that. Like my dad, I think, was the first to recognize that. Like I had ADD, and my dad has always been like this staunch supporter of like, you can do literally anything you set your mind to. Um, you like it's okay if there's something wrong or whatever. It's not wrong. It's just that you see red when everybody else sees blue. And like he would always be like, Albert Einstein saw red when everybody else saw blue. So yeah, it was just like a really good relationship with my dad.
If you could describe the feeling of that relationship really briefly, how would you describe it?
Supported.
What about the relationship with your mom and how that felt?
It's funny because I don't really remember a relationship with my mom before uh, my dad moved out. My mom 100% loved me, took care of me. It almost kind of felt like my dad was the disciplinarian, but at the same time, he was like, like fun and sports. Like I could talk to him about like sports really in depth, and he clicked. And my mom was kind of just like, like nagged us, like pick this up, go there, get ready, like all that type of stuff. So like my mom definitely, I mean, she had a job, but she definitely like just ran, like the family. So it is. Actually, I've never really thought about it that like yeah, before my dad moved out, like I don't really think about my relationship with my mom. I have like photos, but at the same time, it's like that typical thing that happens with moms and families. Like they're always taking the photos because they're thinking about it, and like no one's taking the photos with them. Like, but it's pretty cool because now like I look and me and my mom are like spitting images of each other through the years. Like so me at 5 looks like her at 5. So I kind of actually think about that, I guess, more so of like, oh, I'm my mom. So yeah.
How would you describe the feeling of that relationship briefly?
Uh, I mean, I cannot take my present perception out of it. So like, it's just she's like overly concerned, but it's just a worrisome love.
What are the biggest things that you learned from your parents?
Honestly, I think that like watching them after my dad left, uh, I mean, I still have a relationship with my dad now. It's not like he left, like, I don't know where he exists. But I used to think that it was sad to say, but now I actually think it's like really good of watching them both after taught me what I don't want to be, or like what is like really important. Like with my mom, she had like my dad managed like all the finances in our family, so she had to like relearn or learn all of that stuff. And that definitely helped me when like becoming like an adult, being like, okay, I'm not gonna live in a house that like never has my name on it, or I'm gonna learn how to do the taxes. I'm gonna learn this. I'm gonna like, um, just so I just like can have confidence in myself with that. I also have inherited traits from both of them, so it's an adventure to be like, oh, I'm seeing some of that pop up, and now how do I like kind of work against it, like, so yeah.
Can you tell us about your first love and how that felt? It's whatever you associate as your first love, so it can be a sport, it can be a hobby, it can be a person, it can be anything.
I mean, in that context, volleyball was definitely my first love. It was the first thing that piqued my interest differently, more uniquely than like the other sports. I had played softball and fast pitch and basketball, like the whole gamut. Um, Volleyball was interesting to me because there wasn't a physical component in terms of like being able to touch your opponent. Um, and that kind of just like intrigued me a little bit. And then yeah, it just definitely like worked my mind differently and challenged me. And so yeah, I ended up just like sticking with it. And I also am really lucky that my first coach was, well, mildly to moderately verbally and physically abusive. He was the right coach for me. He was the right coach for um, like my team and the experience, and like he definitely helped me become like the woman that I am. So yeah, I mean the feeling associated with volleyball is like And I mean, I'm like this with like all sports and like lifting and everything, but volleyball definitely was it where it's like I could go out in the back and like work on technique for hours. I loved, uh, which, I loved the growth of it. I loved like the progress of it. I loved learning something new and not being good. And honestly, I think about this all the time. My favorite time in college was preseason. I love just the idea of like endless practice, endless reps. Like I loved it, and like during preseason for volleyball, it's like at the end of summer. So you're in a gym in August for me in uh, Virginia. So it's humid and it's awful. We had an old gym, so it didn't have AC. So you're just like dripping sweat and you're tired. And those are honestly like, those are some of my most favorite days. So yeah.
What about your first loss or heartbreak? It's whatever you associate with that and how that felt.
I mean, if I think about the first one that I experienced in real time, it would be my first boyfriend, who married someone while we were dating. So, uh, as one of my good friends said at the time, it can't get much worse than this. Um, but I mean, it felt like someone like reached into my chest, like just, you know, um, which was interesting. I mean, and obviously, like he's not a good guy, um, but yeah, I mean, that was like the first time that I had experienced heartbreak. If I look back now, my mourning and my grieving process when my family broke up was extremely delayed. So I didn't feel like I had the time to grieve when it was taking place, and then I didn't even allow myself to really mourn um, what could have been, or like what I thought or expectations or whatnot, until my 20s. Honestly, even still, like I just had a kind of like a revelation last week about like the way I react to some stuff, and that is tied to those beginning years, And so like that was, I think, the minute that you learn your parents are just human people, um, that can be heartbreaking, especially if because I feel like the minute you realize that they're human people, it may not always be bad, but it could just be like the first time that you see them cry, or like like stuff like that. So it always is just slightly heartbreaking in a way, where like Superman stops, he becomes just Clark Kent, so yeah.
Awesome. Who would you say first taught you love and how?
I mean, my my dad in a physical affection way. Like you can't, I mean, well, you can, I can't be near him without him giving me like a really big bear hug, and like a big kiss on the forehead. And I mean, he's like that. He's like with my nephews, my niece, he will just grab them and like hug them and give them a kiss. So my dad is like really good at giving physical affection, which always makes me feel very like safe. Um, but I would say like truly probably like my mom, just because like I saw how much uh, our family not being together like messed her up. And while now I do think that I have a unhealthy relationship with love, I see my mom as someone who was like willing to go down with the ship, and because my dad was not great to her, and the more I found out, the more I wish that like my mom would have left earlier. But then I see myself repeating that in my relationships, so it sucks. But I think I mean I know I learned that from her, like kind of just like this undying quest to like like fix it or like stay with it or whatever, So, yeah, I think that's what I have definitely taken in as love.
So what's love to you now versus to what it was compared to your perception of love or idea of love when you were younger? How do those two different loves feel?
You know, um, I don't think it's changed that much though. Like as much as I see how my mom's love has hurt her or how it has hindered other people, right? Like I said, she has that, she's like, just always worried, always worried. And it's like, mom, stop. Like, just like, I'm an adult, like I always have to remind her, like, I somehow got myself dressed today, like, so that's, I guess I'm doing okay, you know. But I do, and I know that some of it is kind of like romanticized, but like I think it's this old school way of approaching it. Like I do not want uh, a relationship where it's just like trips all the time and like gifts and blah, blah. Like I know and I willingly desire the relationship where not every day is spectacular. Some days it's just making PB and J, like some days you're arguing about stuff, like, and it's not that I want an argumentative relationship. I want that real authentic. We're a team together. And I think I see that like with my mom. Like I think that her whole thing was that like with her, my dad, we're a team, and like we built because my brother and my sister are adopted, and we believe in God, and so like it's kind of this like God put all of this together, like, and even my mom says like even if I knew when I got married that this is where it would end, I would do it again, because like put my three kids and did all of this. So like as much as it can be hurtful, I do think that like that type of relationship with what a love and a team and a partnership is, I think that in this day and age it's inherently going to be hurtful because uh, dating sucks these days. So yeah, I don't know if I answered it.
How would you describe briefly like that feeling of that love that you just described?
Oh, fulfilling.
What's a good day look like for you?
A good day looks like where I get to wake up at whatever time I want, and then it's warm right when I take my dog out, and then I take her for a walk, come back, make food, like I like to, like I just moved to a place down South Broadway where like the sun is east west, and so when I open the back door, it's just like sun pouring in. So I'll just like sit there with my like coffee and like, have my like legs in the sun, and my dog will be like kind of meandering out there, whatever. And like that's just like a really great morning, and like and just being able to I ideally not leave my house because I love being at home, but then having like a client call or two, um, yeah, like talking to my clients, and when we have like good sessions, it like re-energizes me because I do get like so passionate um, about their growth, and like when they, especially if like we move forward in something, and I don't want to say like light bulb moment, but like in just like some type of like we just got like to mantle or crust. I don't know what the layers are of the earth, but digging, like so yeah, I had been doing personal training since I moved to Denver, and then I knew I didn't want to stick with that. And now I'm like, oh, okay, I think like this is it, right? And I mean, who knows, it could change in like 5 years or evolve. My hope is that it evolves, but my opportunity coaching, working with people so that they can just become more self-aware, it's like I don't know, it just like really hypes me up. And it's funny because this is getting off track, but it's funny because like, goodness, in 2012, I want to say, I just gone through a breakup with my second boyfriend, and he had begun cheating on me, and I was just like really devastated, and I was not in love with DC at the time, and I didn't love my job, and like it was just like a lot of like, you know. And so I called a friend of mine who I know through my brother, and he's this very wildly successful like entrepreneur and investor and whatever. And I was just like, hey, like, you know, Human, can we meet? Can I pick your brain? And so we sat down over brunch in Arlington, and I was like just telling him everything. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. Blah, blah. And he was just like, oh, this is so exciting. I was like, no, I don't, like, I feel like you didn't hear me, you know? And he's like, no, I mean, this is like literally the most exciting time in your life. I'm so excited for you. I was like, I just like feel like you didn't hear anything I said because everything sucks, you know? And he was telling me, like, recounting his time and like struggle with decisions or whatever. And he was like, it's just about like A to B, B to C. It's never A to Z. And right now you're trying to go A to Z, you know? And I was like, I walked away from the conversation being like, okay, you know, but also like kind of dick, you know, I'm like depressed and he's excited. And then it's funny because I do that to my clients all the time now. Like they'll be like, and I think that's why I like have trauma. And I'm just like, I'm so excited for you. Like, you know, like, but it is like, it's something really cool. It's so cool to be able to like, not only talk to people who feel safe enough to open up and like truly connect with you, but then when you can just say like the right set of words that allow someone to be like to see something that maybe they hadn't seen before. And like that's all I like think about myself. Like if I get, so to answer your question, like a perfect day for me is where I get the amazing opportunity to simply allow people to connect with me or to feel happy around me or to like get out of their comfort zone with me. And like that could be just like saying hi to every single neighbor, like a weirdo, or seeing friends or with a client. But like, yeah.
Awesome. What about a bad day?
I would say like whenever my like anxiety gets the best of me, like I live with major depressive disorder and anxiety and mild paranoia. Gotta throw that one in there. And I haven't had a bad day in a while, not since June. Not since June of last year. Because for me, like a bad day was where I could not get myself to like really function well in terms of like my anxiety was just constantly like hammering on me. And so like to send a text to someone would take like an hour because I would write it and then delete it and then write it and delete it. And then, you know, like, or like, you know, just having like a day where, you know, I'm walking and I'm like, you know, if a car wants to hit me, that's cool, you know, like, and so I've been on medication since November of 2019, but like I really was able to, I've been super consistent. I've done really awesome work with my therapist. So like, I in general, and like even without the medication, I definitely see the medication as just like allowing me the space, to learn and grow and like actually think through things and whatnot. And so it is kind of cool. Like, that's another question, like, I haven't even thought about, but it is cool to, like, reflect and be like, I've had days that I'm like, oh, this sucks. Like, with this COVID stuff, and then, like, I had a ton of stuff that just happened at the same time, not even necessarily to me, but to, like, people I care about. I was like, man, this is such a crappy week. But it still didn't feel like a bad day, like, before. So yeah.
Could you describe just what before, how that anxiety feels like, just a little bit more descriptive?
Yeah, so like what I said to like I described it to my family because they don't know mental health, or I should say depression, anxiety, like that. Um, so like how I described it to them was that like if I'm walking across a frozen lake and I see something off and I can't tell what it is, my anxiety will be like, well, it's definitely 1,000 negative things. Let me tell you them. And then I just get so stuck, like paralyzed, uh, and the anxiety and the worry and the fear like heats me up in that one spot until I fall through the ice, and I can't quite find like the hole again. And like through the ice is pretty much depression, where I'm just kind of like I'm just lost. And yeah, and so it's like I can tell like there's a world just on the other side of the ice, but I mean I can't find it. Um, so yeah, like it's funny now because like I can definitely feel the pieces of it. Like if like you and I were texting and then you like just don't respond to me for 3 days, my paranoia is like, and then I'm like, no, and then my anxiety is like, let me list out the
Scenarios.
8,000, yeah, and then I'm like, these are all really, really valid, actually, and then my depression is like, yet again, like, so, yeah.
What's a person or an event that shaped you, good or bad? How does it feel when you reflect on that?
Well, I mean, 100%, yeah, my dad moving out,
How old were you?
13. It went from like a house full of people. Like my brother was home from college, and then like my sister left the following week to go to college for her freshman year, and then my dad moved out. So it was just me and my mom, and like uh, I mean, the important thing was that I just had to show up for my mom at that time, while I was like throughout high school, and um, I think of it now as kind of like just handling my father in different ways, like managing him with my mom or managing when he would feel angry. He wasn't like violently angry, but he definitely is less angry now. Um, and yeah, and so it's just like I look at like the different things that have taken place. Like I've been raped twice. I'm in recovery from sex addicts or sexual addiction. So I look at all of that stuff as um, branches of like the tree of like if I had had the space to say, hey, like I feel really, really sad, which I tried to do when I was like 14, and it was kind of like invalidated. Not kind of, it was invalidated, or like when I'd be like, hey, I'm lonely, like it would be invalidated. And like even that, like I feel like if I were to say that to one of my parents, like they'd be like, I don't remember it like that, like so there are still lingering things. And then like I've had to just in the past year like work on what boundaries look like, not only for people that I talk to, but like my family, like, hey, you guys have to show up this way, or you can't not call me, or X, Y, and Z. So yeah, I mean like that definitely, because I mean it's obviously like still trauma that I am working through, and it taught me how to not show up for myself, but also like this idea that like I should deal with men who are emotionally inaccessible, right? Because like they always like relationships will always end, doesn't matter what you put into it, and then like I invalidate myself, and I've allowed people to invalidate me, and so it's like all those things are really like I wouldn't obviously be me without it, and I love me. I'm very happy with who I am, but at the same time, like it would be a lie if I didn't say that during the ride here. Like I didn't think like, who would I have been? Like, would I have gone to a different college if like my parents had stayed together? Would I be married by now? Would I have chosen a different career? Like all those type of things. But yeah.
What's inspired you?
What inspires me or has inspired?
Has or is?
I don't even know. I actually don't know if I know.
What's been a humbling experience for you?
I actually every time I do like something like this, or like I was on a mental health panel, and I was like, I'm literally just some chick that talks about mental health, and everybody on this panel is a doctor, has a PhD. They like run these big things, like, and then I ended up like talking the most, and with my clients, like if I say something and like they'll be like, oh my goodness, I have to write that down, or like, and that type of stuff. I always am like, I don't know if any of you know this, but I'm just Sarah Hips. Like this is not that special, like, but it really humbles me, like when just people want to listen to me. Like it's just, yeah, it's really humbling.
So the next question is, if you could go in your mind and think this life event can be mental, physical, or spiritual, tell me about a time in your life that you can relate with the word war.
Actually, with my relationship with God, in a very positive way, I should say, I 100% know. See, like this is like the one thing that will like get me emotional. I 100% know he's gone to war for me. Like it is really, really hard to wake up not wanting to be alive, and it's exhausting, like, and I honestly, I lived in that space for like 20 years, like plus, and I didn't realize it for a long time. And then it was just like when I attempted suicide in 2012, I didn't tell anybody. Like I literally just went to a therapist on my own, didn't tell anybody because I don't want anybody to know that like I'm this weak, right? And then, but yeah, there have been times, especially because I've lived in Denver now for like 6 years, coming up on 6 years, and there have been times where, I was just like here. I don't have like family, and I didn't know anybody when I moved here. I have such a great group of friends now, but there have been times where I was just so stuck, and I was like in my addiction, and I was so deep in my depression, and I would just yell like, God, I need you to do something, and like I truly feel like he was like, baby girl, like I'm going to keep hold of your hand, like I'm keep pulling you out of like the grasp of just like depression and all that stuff, like, and I am like so thankful because it has helped me realize that like the way I look at my relationship with God is less of like this omnipotent, like striking you down God, but just like a father, like he's going to let you touch the stove to learn. He's going to tell you that's not a good idea, but let you do it. And he's going to not give you what you want because he knows that he has something better. Like you can't eat dessert before, like you got to eat your veggies, like, and but I also just know that he truly like loves me. And so it's like I truly truly feel like he is just like, I just wish that you could see what I see when I see you, you know? And so like, I truly have, I fought for my life, you know, like I fought to be here. And like, I never thought I would have months of being like, you know, like I don't think about killing myself. And then like, you know, I think it was last month, I was like, I'm really happy to be alive. Like, that's awesome, you know? And like, so yeah, I 100% am like, God went to war for me. And like, that's like, what type of love is that, you know? Like, that's amazing. Um, so yeah.
If you could describe briefly the feeling of that love.
It feels like more than I deserve, but exactly what I deserve.
So the next question, same type of question. Go in your mind and think. This life event can be mental, physical, or spiritual. Tell me about a time in your life that you can relate to the word peace.
Anytime I talk to or hang out with my like nephews or niece, my brother has two boys, and I used to, I mean, COVID really crap things up, but like, yeah, I used to like see them a decent amount. They're in Georgia, and I remember like, I mean, I'm Garrett's godmother, and so it was like the first time I held him, and it was like I love you so much, you know. And then I haven't gotten a chance to meet my newest nephews. My sister lives in Florida. She has two kids, Melina, who is seven in 2 days, and then Jonathan, JJ, he is just turned one, and I don't necessarily want kids. I have decided to like not say like never, because I definitely, as like a 35-year-old woman, am randomly just like, I mean, like, I don't know, maybe I'll just have one, you know, like, but there's a sense of like peacefulness and like security at being like my family continues, you know, and like it definitely feels like a lot of what I do, or like the healing that goes on between my nucleus family, like this isn't even about us anymore, you know, it's about them, which is really, really cool. Um, yeah, it just makes your world bigger.
Can you tell us about a truly difficult time in your life, how it felt, how you got through it?
Mm, trying to think like what have I not used yet? Um, See, like the problem is that all of the difficult stuff at the time, I just was like, I'm just gonna like put it in this box, you know, and lock that up. Um,
It's usually the first one that pops in there to do it. Or if it's more than one, you can talk about whatever.
so when I was 18, um, I, you know, I don't know, cause it's like, yeah, like every like my first assault was like by my first boyfriend, right? And it was just like, oh, I guess I don't know, maybe that was my fault somehow, you know. The or sorry, that was the second one. The first one, what happened right before I left for college, and it was a rosette party, and like, you know, I like had a beer, and then, you know, like obviously like a guy raped me, right? And it was 100% like, this was my fault. I had a beer, right? You know, and then the same thing with like the second one. And like, I have like breadcrumbed it back to like that. I think that second one kind of uh, flipped the switch on like, oh, I may just not understand that, like, that maybe this is like my purpose in life or whatever, right? So like, it was kind of like the beginning of like the path towards my sexual addiction. Um, but like, yeah, I don't know, because it's like the first time I tried to commit suicide, like, sucks, but then I woke up,
Mm-hmm.
I went to work, you know, like, so yeah, it's like,
Yeah, but there's also the hardest part is the mental and emotional hurdles you're going through every day, and to go through that consistently for a long amount of time is no small thing. You know that is
Yeah,
extremely hard.
yeah, yeah,
You know that it's not light. It's not anything like just because like you're here, we see you, right? It's like that doesn't mean everything. All,
yeah, yeah.
I've been through hard things myself, and I went to prison when I was 18. Pretty violent upbringing, but the hardest thing that I ever went through was my depression
Mm,
and just trying to live every day.
yeah.
Like it's not easy.
Yeah.
You have to be commended that you're here and you're still going, and it's not to be whiffed on at all. But besides that,
Thank you, by the way.
well, um, I know you talked about, you were sexually assaulted, and then you said that led to your sexual addiction, and in your story you said that you didn't talk about the initial hurt that you had as well with your parents leaving, and then you were invalidated, so then you had to learn how to keep everything in, essentially, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's like at a young age, we start finding ways to numb ourselves or to medicate ourselves with whatever makes us feel good, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it certainly leads to different types of addictions, but when you're in addiction, like, how'd you get out of that addiction, or how are you actively?
Yeah. Um, yeah. So like my therapist that I had found after my suicide attempt, we worked together for a number of years, and she was actually the first person that suggested that I look into like SAA, Sex Addicts Anonymous. Um, and I was like, I don't have a problem. Like I just have a healthy libido, not a big deal, right? Um, and I should like, I should not do anything, but I will clarify that like my my addiction manifests in the way of like I will always I would always steer men towards a physical relationship to avoid any type of intimacy, because I just had a fear that if they got to know me, they would be like, "There's like nothing here," like. And also, if a guy decides to like end a physical relationship with me, he's not actually rejecting me. He's just like deciding that he wants a different type of relationship. So, like for me, and then the path to that, like I said, was like in both of my sexual assaults, like I wasn't kissed. There was nothing before, right? So like, sex for a very long amount of time was not an intimate act for me. Like I did not feel any emotions during it. Like it was just like a means to an end type of thing. But like, but so to get back on track, I started having like going on dates because I was like, I want a relationship, and I've been single for a while now. And there was a guy that I had talked to, and like on the first date, we did stuff, and it just was like disappointing for me because it was like that's not what I wanted to do, but like I couldn't even stop myself, and and I was very much in this space then of like I would always like do sexual innuendos, or I would always say stuff that I knew would get the guy to like ask certain questions or like lead to certain things or whatever. And I could not like stop it, And so me and this guy like hooked up for a few months, and then he was like, hey, so like just FYI, we gotta put a kibosh on this because I met someone I like want to pursue it. And I was like, oh, like what, like tell me about it. And he was like, oh, I mean, she just like wants a real relationship, like she's serious, and I know you just like to have fun, and it just like I don't know like why, but like that one like just hit me like a ton of bricks, and so I actually went and like talked to my therapist again, and like took a test, and I went to like my first meeting, and my first meeting was on New Year's Eve actually, and 2014, And it was all men except for me and two other women. And everything I was hearing, I was like, I don't think you have a problem, sir. I think you may just be gay, or like just like random stuff. And I'm like, this does not resonate with me. And then when I was leaving, I was pretty much leaving with like, yeah, this definitely is not my space, like confirmed. Um, and then one of the women was like, hey, why don't you come? There's women's only meeting tomorrow morning, which is a Saturday. And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever, And then like in that circle was where I was like, oh crap, because like pretty much everybody had a history of like sexual abuse, sexual assault. The way that they talked about like escalating, like I started like seeing some of that in my habits, my patterns, and so yeah, like in that meeting, I was like, oh, I mean, actually, exactly where I'm supposed to be. And so I actually didn't tell. I told my mom after I think like a few months because I was just like, I want to start. I want to be held accountable because like in my family we don't talk about sex, like and so it's like I know that it's going to like hurt my family, but like I need to like be held accountable. And like at that point, yeah, I like anything that I did, I wouldn't really like tell my family or like because I don't think I told them. I don't think I told my mom that I tried to commit suicide for like 2 or 3 years, like, and so yeah, like my mom was supportive. Like both my parents, my mom is a little bit better, but both my parents are like they never like directly broach it. And my dad will be like, I hope that you remember that God just wants you to live in a good Christian way. Like that's the closest he'll get to it. But yeah, I mean, like ultimately now, it's I wouldn't say it's not a struggle. It is definitely like day by day because like sometimes when I'm like I feel lonely or I've done so much of the work to recognize what triggers like that reaction, right? Like oh, I should call someone or I should whatever, or like just F all this, like. And I have continued to have crappy luck when it comes to dating, and I think even like yeah, at the beginning of like this year, like I had one of those moments where I was like, I I might not have been happy, but like, man, old Sarah had more fun and just it was just easier, like she wasn't caring as much. And so I do find like different days are harder because I know it's just the emotional reaction to it. But I have found that the more I talk about it, like on Instagram and share that part of my story, the more I get people who will like ask me questions about it because they think that they may be struggling with an aspect of sexual addiction as well. So like, it was really hard the first time I like posted to Instagram about it because I was like, I know like people probably either think sex addiction is fake or they're probably imagining I was like in a back alley, like doing things, whatever. And then I was just like, I can't really allow what people's perceptions are to deter me from what I think. And my belief has just been that like everything that has happened to me, or everything I've experienced and every bad decision I've made, I own those. But I like to believe that like God isn't purposely giving me strife just because he's like, this is kind of fun. Like and I know that it is a rationalization, but I like to believe that everything God has put on my plate is not even about me. Like, I really want to believe that God is like, hey, like, I need you to talk about sex addiction because I don't think people would think that you have that issue. And let's talk about it. And then I talk about it, and then I get people in my DMs who are like, so I think I have an addiction to porn. Can I talk to you about it? Like, especially whenever I talk about like my suicidal ideation or like my depression, I have so many people who are like, I'm so happy that people talk about this. I don't know why it's such a stigma, or like, I actually tried to commit suicide myself. I've never told anybody that. And it's like, holy crap, like, wow, like, thank you, like, so yeah, I think I've done a decent job, which is why I have a hard time with this like question of just being like, how do I place a lot of this stuff? Because I mean, I did go through like the avoiding, and then the anger, and then like numbing, and like I've gone through it, and it's eaten so much of my life. Like I'm only 35, and this started when I was 14, or 13. And so I'm at the point now where it's like I really want to stop hurting all the time, like so like I think more recently I like the revelations and epiphanies I've had around my traumas or triggers, like that's been like very like, okay, like this is awesome, but also like holy crap, like and so like when you ask me that question, all I can think about is like those recent things, and how like I mean, like I said, like I just in the past few weeks realized that like I have a history of feeling invalidated, and like the word validation has become just like really big for me. And so like that, it like hurts then when you realize something and then you see it and you're like, oh yeah, I just realized that this is a trigger for me, and I didn't realize that this is that, like it's this. And now I see that like, oh, this is very much here in my life. Like I guess that's why like now I'm just able to like get to it. So like I think like with any growth, there's always growing pains, So
how do you validate yourself?
I've gotten a lot better at stopping myself when I start saying should statements. And just reminding myself that I cannot be mad at the Sarah that didn't know what this Sarah knows now. Even if it was like this morning, like I'm just like, you know what? Afternoon Sarah now knows better, like, but yeah, like because I think it is really about allowing myself to be in that space of like I experienced that, like, which is really hard to do because when I think about like high school, I was mostly just trying to survive, right? And like I had to show up for my mom, and that things just didn't feel about me. And also you're going through puberty, so everything is just chaotic and crazy anyway, like but like there was never a time until like last year really where I felt able to say to like my mom or my dad like I was there and it hurt, like because before then it would be like, oh, and like maybe people didn't say this, but I would write myself off like, oh, I'm just being dramatic, or like, oh, I'm just being like me or whatever. But yeah, just being able to like, even if it's not to other people, being able to like sit in something and just say like that hurt, it hurts, it hurt to lose my virginity the way it did, and that's the last thing I wanted, but like for years it's been, I mean, it was probably my fault. And also like it wasn't violent, and so you're fine. Like you watch like Law and Order SVU, stuff like that, and you're just like, it's not like I was beat up, so you're fine, like. And so you're fined my way through so many years. So even just to be able to be like, I was not fine. Like I just wasn't fine, and I'm not fully fine right now, and that's okay, like that is like really powerful, but it takes a level of vulnerability with yourself. And I just talked to a client about this where like there's a room in our heart that has a big sign that says like danger, do not enter. And it's just full of memories and feelings and things that like like we just can't go there, you know, like, and the minute we do, it's just like we're overwhelmed or we don't know what, like you know, like, and so I think that it's just about being able to open the door to that and be like, I'm gonna stand in here and I'm just gonna see what's going on, you know, like, because that, like, it usually causes like a lot of pain, and like, and that's you being vulnerable with yourself, you know, because like sometimes you have had that door closed for so long that you don't know what's on the other side of it, and like, you know, this is a really good example of last year. I was watching Grey's Anatomy, and it was an episode I've seen before. It was an episode about this woman who was raped. She went into the ER, and she didn't want to call anybody. And she, like, if she saw a man, like, she would start panicking. And so the women, doctors, they have to get her to, like, upstairs, like surgery or something. And so they actually go out and they collect all the women that they can find to line the hallways, from her room to the elevator, and then from the elevator to the surgery room, and like, so no men. She didn't see any men. She just saw like faces of women who supported her. Right. I've seen this episode before, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's cute, you know. And then I was watching it last year, and I just start bawling like a baby. Like, it's to the point where I was just like, I don't know what's going on. But then it just started hitting me that like all I could think was like, it was not okay. Like, I was saying no, I was yelling, I was pushing, I was doing everything like I could do as a 17-year-old girl, you know, like, and at the time, 100%, it was like, I should have been stronger. I should have fought off more. I should have, you know, like, you do all that stuff, right? And so there's like a lot of shame and lack of forgiveness that takes place over what I didn't realize was just like every year and every moment until I broke down watching this show, right? And that was at 17, and this happened last year. And so like I even joke, I couldn't stop crying for so long that like I'm even like getting ready for bed, like brushing my teeth, like, you know, but it was the first time that I was like, you know what, I did everything I could, and it is not okay. It just is not okay. And it hurt, and it kicked off a, you know, decade plus journey of not having worth and thinking that my body was the reason that I was here, or thinking that there was not a man that could value who I was, or like, you know. And so it's just, when I think about it now, I'm like, yeah, it's not okay, you know, like, yeah. But forever, it was like, I should have done better, you know. And so like, that's been my, like, I think like, I don't know why, I think like there was like the timing, but for some reason some like angel came in, just like drop kick that door open, and then like, because I was never going to go open it myself for sure, you know. So yeah, it's that, yeah.
To switch gears,
Mm-hmm.
thank you for sharing. Can you tell us about a truly joyous moment in your life?
When my brother and sister-in-law asked me to be Garrett's godmother, because I did not expect them to. Because with my brother, I've always kind of felt like the irresponsible, you know, ridiculous little sister. And then like literally they asked, I remember we were in my mom's apartment, he was sitting at the kitchen table and he asked, and I literally was just like, yeah. It just like felt like, I can't believe you're like, oh crap, like this is responsibility, and like, you trust me with your kid. Like, you know, like, I mean, I love that kid. I love all the kids, but yeah, Garrett he's my little dude.
What keeps you up at night?
right now I'm aware that if I don't make certain consistent and intentional changes, I will not reach my potential. Never, I've always had a form of that type of fear. And like one thing I used to wonder when I was depressed was, or when I was in my depression more was, would I rather die today, or would I rather live the rest of my life to see if it gets better, but then it never does? Because like that's always just been a fear that like, yeah, like I'm gonna be 70 with like no savings and being like still alone. Definitely should have just ended it, back when I was 30, because that would suck to get there and think. But now, like, one of my friends, Jen, she is an amazing friend. And we were talking about this, and I'm just like, I have ADD, and I'm just kind of like, and I'm really good at like starting good ideas and then getting really distracted and being like, so I have this great idea, like, and Jen is very type A. I'm very good at collecting type A people around me because I'm severely type B. But like we were talking last year and she was just like, I just don't want to look at you in 10 or 20 years and be like, she had a lot of potential. And I was like, that is fair. And she's like, I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm like, no, I mean, this is the type of stuff I need to hear because it's true. Like, I feel it. And it is actually a thing that has like haunted me where like when I was, oh crap, I don't know, 11, 12, we were at church and my parents went down to talk to a guest pastor, and he just like turned and like prophesized over me.
What was the prophecy?
You're going to lead millions. Mm-hmm. Great. Literally haunted me like every year. So like, is there like a blueprint, or like can someone like let me know what they think it's gonna look like? Is it overbook, like, and like as I've gotten older, it's like, am I behind on this plan? And like it's actually haunted me. And then it like people have I shouldn't say people have always, but I have been told more than once that people were like, oh, I should get your autograph now because you're gonna do stuff, or like, and like people say that, and I'm just like, I love it. It's like, do you have like a visual of what you see me doing? Because like I am nowhere near that, like, and so yeah, crap. I'm so so yeah, that keeps me up, where I'm like, I don't know if I'm ever gonna get there, or what if I never figure it out, or what if there is this amazing thing, and because I am constantly distracted or constantly like letting Satan get the best of me or this or that, like I just never make it. And that is like, I think like the root of it, like that Satan keeps throwing all these things because he's like, man, this chick is easy to trip up, but like also like I really need her to keep tripping up because like God has a plan for her and I really need her to not get there. And I'm just like, guess I'm railroaded again, like I don't want to be like that weak, like in that sense. So, but I have been, as much as because right before I had COVID, I had a concussion. So this has not been my best physical year. But I am very thankful for it because having those things has actually forced me to like just sit and be patient and reevaluate stuff. And I've started making more intentional like shifts with like my business or whatever. And so I'm like, okay, we're doing it, but yeah. Today, actually, when I was showering to come here, I was praying out loud. I was like, God, I think it's just, I can't do this anymore. Like I really, I am 100% letting go. And you are just going to take full control. And I'm letting go, which I know I've said before, but like I'm just tired. And I think it's because I'm holding on so tightly. So I'm just going to let you do whatever you want. Like that was literally praying that just before. It's because, yeah, it's just like, I trust God, but it's like, I'm still holding on to I need a sense of control when I know I don't have any anyway. So, yeah.
What keeps you going every day?
I want to see my nephews and my niece more often. Like, I just want to live a life where I can afford to be like, oh, like, there's a big little league baseball game. I'm gonna fly in for the weekend and watch that. Or like, Melina is. I mean, well, she's just always playing with dolls. But Melina is playing with dolls, so I'm gonna go play with her in person. Like I used to think that success was going to look like having like a really nice car and living in a really nice place and like dressing in Victoria Beckham dresses because I love those dresses so much. But what I realized that what it feels like is like when I get to my brother's house and I get like little dude hugs, it's like freaking like I just want more money to do this more, So, and I want to give my mom a credit card one day. So
success feels like love.
Yeah.
Imagine you're in the hospital today with only hours to live. What would be your regrets, if any?
You know what? Now it would just be not traveling a smidge more. Because there's like, this sounds silly, but there's food I want to eat.
Yeah.
Like I have never placed an emphasis on travel because I'm like, I want to see travel, like China, I Google it. No, I've seen China, but I do the same thing actually with 14ers. I've never done a 14er here because I'm like, I have seen so many top of Mount whatever photos. I don't need to go. Like I'm not getting up at 3 a.m. to go see something that I've seen on your photos. I'm not doing it. But it's like there's like things that are tangible that you can't Google, right? Like the food. Like I went to Cuba 4 years ago and beautiful, awesome, whatever, right? But like there was this one my 3 main memories are that we were staying in this Airbnb and the owner was like, okay, so there's a local place. It's literally just right around the corner. It's in the basement of someone's house. Great food, cheap, but you can only order in Spanish. And I, with my high school level Spanish, walked in and I was just like, arroz. Like, and I just remember the woman like yelling, like, aquí. And I'm like, no, aquí. And I'm just like, Sarah, like, bring it down. She's not deaf. You're okay. Like, and by the end of the trip, my Spanish had picked up so well that like I walked in, I was just like, like I ordered a whole, and the woman who goes, and I was like, yes, But then yeah, like the beans and rice there were so good, and I do not like beans and rice, but those beans and rice, so good. And then
black beans and white rice.
Yes, I don't know how they cook them. And I tell you, I mean, if you gave me a plate here, I don't want it. But the black beans and rice there, I was just like, I could just eat a bowl of this. It was so good. And then the only other thing that I was like, okay, this was worth like just fronting the money. Because like when I paid for it, I was like, my account is going to have like $100 in it, like after I pay for it, all this. But like I did it, right? And so like we were in Vieja Plaza, and great weather obviously there, and it's just I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's just this giant plaza, right? And then they're like corner shop, like restaurants and stuff. And down like the corridors, there are like open places that, and like they're playing live music like all the time there. And so you can hear like live music throughout the whole plaza and stuff. So I was sitting in one of the corner places. I got a chicken sandwich, a beer, sitting there like writing and reading, another chicken sandwich, another beer, get another beer, and I spent like 3 hours there or whatever. And like I said, it's just like some breeze and the warmth and like the music just, and I was like, this is the life, like this is it for me, like, but like that, I've seen tons of photos of Cuba, but like that, I was like, I can do this, Other than that, though, you know what? Everybody should regret things when I die. That's what I say. Everybody should regret not being nicer to me. I tell people that all the time, actually. I'm like, you're going to be so sad when I die because you were not nice to me. So I'm actually just mean about that.
So you would have that one travel regret. Obviously, the next question is, do you feel you can change or make amends with that regret?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a really tough spot between trying to be responsible and like, I should start adding to like my 401k and like, I don't know, you know what? F it, But I am realizing that like a form of self-care, like last year, September or July of last year, I like was just like, you know what? F it. I cashed in a favor from a friend who like had owed me something, and so he like pitched money towards my Airbnb, and I just went out to like Venice Beach, and I just spent like 3 days, and honestly, it was just perfect because like COVID obviously like sucked, and so like you're not doing anything, and I went out there and I was like, I'm gonna read, I'm gonna journal, it's gonna be great. I get out there, I land at like, 6 p.m. and I was like, well, it's like getting dark, so I'm just going to like watch some TV and order some food. I ended up watching like all of Insecure on HBO. I don't know if you know that show. And then I went to the beach and I'm like, I'm going to read. And I like read, and then it got overcast. So I went back to Airbnb, watched Insecure. And next day I was like, I'm going to read. I got on the beach and I did exactly what I always do, which is I passed out. And flipped over, started reading, passed out. And then like the next day I got some donuts. I saw a friend and I came home, and it was just like, you know what? Yeah, like I needed that. So I need to start finding little ways to travel more.
You told me what your dreams were as a kid. What are your dreams now?
I want to leave things better than I found them.
You're the co-author of your life, but what's your picture perfect ending? If you can envision it.
I can, sir. I am with my teammate, my husband, and we live like on the beach. Nowhere fancy, not like Santa Monica, but like just some like little beach area. And I've written at least 3 books. Okay. And
what are the books about?
Just like self-awareness and growth, like cuz I just geek out on it so much. Because by then I figured out how to take this connective thing here, and I've written it in a way that people are like, I get this, right? And I've like spoken at like conferences, because being aware of yourself does help you as an employee and as an employer, and like but I just want it to be where like, yeah, like I want to look back and be like, I did so much worrying for nothing. Like it all worked out. Like, you know, because I think like right now when I'm in the midst of stuff, that's what I like lean on of like I don't know if you've ever heard, there's this little phrase and it says one day you're gonna wake up next to someone that you love and you're going to make pancakes and it's just gonna be, everything's gonna be okay. And like, so I think about that a lot, but I also just think about like if the conversations I, as 35-year-old Sarah, would have with like 14 or 15-year-old Sarah, if I could just like do that the same way, what would 65-year-old Sarah say to me now? And I'm just hoping that it's like you worried so much. I'm like, everything's fine. Like, you're fine. You know, like, you know, but that's the hope, you know, because like I said, God forbid if 65-year-old Sarah is like, so honestly, this is the best.
65-year-old Sarah's on the beach. She's a published author. She has a husband, family. If you could briefly describe how you think that event would feel, or that being in that space.
I want it to feel complete. Like I want to feel like I don't have pressure to be doing, or sorry, that's my alarm.
That's good. I mean, we're right.
Good.
No pressure alarm.
It's my don't forget to take your crazy pills alarm. But yeah, I just want it to feel like complete. Like, okay, yeah, you know, like there's, because right now it's just pressure, right? Of like, man, I hope.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah.
That's it.
Yay, look at that.
Right.